Yo, what's good people? Welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time, welcome. My name is Ben from Lover of Tech, and I wanted to do this video because it's something where it's interesting to me. I kind of wanted to share that information because I don't see this video enough, or I don't see things like this enough. What I'm going to do straight into it, I want to show you how the timeline performance is with the footage from the X-T4 in Premiere Pro when you're editing it. And what we're going to be comparing is the all-intra all-I 8-bit in MP4, and then we're going to be comparing the all-I 10-bit in H.265, and that one is in the MOV container. And I'm recording to the Atomos Ninja V, and we're going to compare it also to ProRes 422 10-bit externally, which is what you get with the Fuji XT4. So unscripted, but I'm actually exporting a vlog now, and we're going to be using the vlog footage, so you guys will probably get to see the vlog first before this, and kind of screen record it and show you the difference in how the internal footage behaves on the timeline versus ProRes, and why, I'll be honest with you man, recording externally to the Ninja V, it saves so much time. It's like ProRes is such a good codec, and I kind of just want to showcase that and see, you know, what's the difference with how it behaves with the internal footage. Now, I'm gonna run you through my specs on my PC. So my PC is running a Ryzen 5 3600, and that is the 3600, not the X model. That is 6 cores, 12 threads, and I believe that is the Zen Plus. Obviously, that second generation Ryzen Zen Plus, and you've got the 7nm architecture there. I've got 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and that is obviously at 3000 megahertz. That's what I've got here. I've got an NVMe drive from Western Digital, which is obviously 500 gig or 512 internally. And the GPU that I use is the NVIDIA GTX 1650 Super. 4 gigabytes of VRAM at GDDR6, 1280 CUDA cores from what I remember. And that is based on the Turin architecture, so it's the new one, but it's not RTX. So that's what I'm running in terms of specs. Obviously motherboard is ASUS, which is obviously the B450, but again, the main thing is obviously the CPU, the RAM amount, and the GPU, and how it behaves with the, you know, the software of how it edits. So we're going to go into it, and I'm going to show you how ProRes behaves, the internal 8-bit behaves, and the internal 10-bit behaves, all in the all-intra, all-I, not in the long GOP, which is obviously the long group of pictures. And yeah, let's just pretty much see how they behave in terms of just the playback and scrubbing mainly, and when you cut them, how it plays back and how it behaves. Oh, Editor Ben here. Sorry about this. I know it's taking long in the intro and everything, and we're gonna get straight into it, but I just finished editing everything, and there's some bits where the audio was messed up during the OBS recording, so I had to use the backup audio, which was the internal camera microphone, and it just didn't come out that nice, but it's only for short segments of it, so I apologize. Stick with me. Most of the audio during this next part is really crystal clear. When you hear some dips on there, it's because the audio was messed up to the point where you couldn't even hear me talking, so I just wanted to give you guys that. So yeah, that's it. Editor Ben here. I'm out. Just continue watching. Thank you. Okay, so we're in the Premiere timeline, and if we go here and we look at the sequence, this is effectively my sequence, and it's a 2:1 aspect ratio 4K UHD video export, which is my usual for YouTube when I'm uploading. If we go into the B-roll folder, we've got all the 3 types of footage lined up in folders. So we've got here the 10-bit files, 400 megabits per second, all intra H.265 HEVC footage. And also we've got here the 8-bit files, which is MP4 containers, not the MOV, MP4 containers, 8-bit 420, 400 megabits per second, also all intra, all I compression technique. And then you've got the 422 ProRes. Obviously the 422 ProRes, if you go to properties, you scroll down, you'll see the resolution. You see that it's a QuickTime movie type, which is obviously under Apple ProRes. And as you go down, you will see that it is Apple ProRes 422, which is obviously the compressor. That one targets around 450 to 480 megabits per second in terms of the data rate from what I remember. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of the 10-bit files, put them on the timeline, all the 8-bit files, put them on the timeline, and also put the ProRes file on the timeline as well.
ProRes file is about a 5-minute recording that I did, which is obviously 422 10-bit externally from the Ninja 5, from the XT4 to the Ninja 5. I've got the hardware monitor there. Again, take into account that I am screen recording on OBS as well, so the system is going to be a bit more taxed, but it should be indicative of the performance difference. Because again, what I'm interested in seeing is how does the timeline performance of these internal codecs behave on the timeline, especially when it's meant to be all I, because all I should be easy on the timeline, but I've not really been getting that performance. So it's something I wanted to share, and I thought initially it was because of the 10-bit files in H.265 HEVC that was really bogging the system down. But I'm seeing the same thing with the 8-bit files in MP4, not even in the MOV, but in the MP4 container at 400 megabits per second all I, which I was expecting to be much easier on the system, versus ProRes. ProRes is golden, and you're going to see the difference why. What I've also done is I've created 1080p proxy versions of these 4K UHD files, and you can see as I toggle it, you've got proxies. These proxies are effectively either Cineform or ProRes versions of the file attached to it to make it easier to scrub and edit on the timeline. Very similar to what you're going to see with ProRes, and you're going to see the difference there. So let's do a basic run play. We've got a drop frame indicator.
Rude of me to just walk past. What's good, people? Hope you guys are all good. It's another vlog, another Fuji XT4 vlog. This one I don't
When I pause it,
think it's going to be anything special. I just want to make it nice, quick, short and sweet. Basically, since I got this camera, my personal one, with the 16 to 50,
we're gonna pause it again.
55 f2.8, the linear motor with the weather sealing, there's been firmware updates for this camera. It's still running on version 1.00 now.
So it looks to be playing back well, and again, I've told you what my system specs are. You'll see it on the screen, and as I mentioned before, but here's where things really change up. The initial playback seems okay, but when you zoom into the timeline,
now they've had versions 1.01, 1.02,
pause,
and the latest one, which is 1.03.
Pause,
and I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see it. But the 1.03 says
still no drop frames, but this is when things change. Now when you scrub, you can see, and again, we've got the playback quality at 4, right? This is worst case scenario at 4. So you can see in that space of about 5-10 seconds, right, the drop frame indicator is showing amber. You've dropped about 560 frames, and you can hear the audio playing, but the video isn't catching up to the audio. And that tends to happen once you start to cut, scrub, and go back, because it's having to decompress and obviously compress, open up, compress these files, and it's very, very taxing on the system. This is the 10-bit files. So you're thinking maybe the 8-bit in MP4 in H.264 is going to be a lot easier. It's pretty much the same, even though both of them are using the all-intra all-I compression technique. Again, the compression codec is H.264 versus H.265. That's the compression codec. But the compression technique, which is either between long GOP, which is long group of pictures, or also known as IPB, versus all-intra, which is obviously all-I codec, which is individual frames being rendered, it's not the same. And most of the time, if you look at my system that I'm using, like I said, Ryzen 3600, Ryzen 5 3600, 6-core, 12 threads, not overclocked, 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM at 3000 megahertz, and the NVIDIA GTX 1650 Super with the Turing architecture, 4 gigabytes of VRAM, 1280 stream processors, and a 500 gig NVMe on the system, but a T5 drive externally that I'm editing off. This is a good baseline for anyone that wants to have the same specs, look below those same specs or above in terms of getting better native footage performance. And if we switch it to proxies, you can see that the proxy file, butter, absolute butter, right? Because this is effectively Cineform or ProRes. You can see frame by frame the audio can keep up with you can see that the audio can keep up with the video. So it doesn't matter what you do, you could cut, play, pause, cut, play, pause, scrub, cut, play,
see the difference in between.
no drop frames, zero drop frames.
So I'm gonna take off the ND filter.
The audio keeps up with the video, and as soon as you turn it, having to use the internal,
it will just basically take it from there and see how does it behave when
you scrub
to the auto step in when it comes to
you cut
to the exposure. Let me go through the settings and remember.
We'll get to the best part, just the ProRes.
So guys, that is it, man.
So if you've not checked out the vlog before this, go watch it.
Let me know. Let's have a discussion in the comment section below. Let me see what you guys think
drop
of
frames.
it. You know, personally, like I said, I don't necessarily see it that much as a big deal, but let me know if there's a different creative way that you would have done this test.
So as you're scrubbing, you can see that it doesn't scrub the same way as when the proxy is enabled, which is obviously Cineform and ProRes.
All you gotta do is just enable ProRes RAW. My Ninja 5, my Ninja V is waiting for that, man. GFX 100 has got it. This is more than powerful enough. Give us.
Now I would say that the 8-bit MP4 H.264 files seem to be less taxing. It definitely does give the impression that it's less taxing, it's a little bit more friendly, especially with the all-eye, you know, compression technique.
But at the end of the day, it's still quite taxing on the system.
And the best way to get the performance is to transcode them into proxies. And obviously the good thing about Premiere is that you can make your own custom proxies above the standard 720p that you get. You can make 1080p proxies or 4K UHD proxies to match it so that your footage looks exactly the same and you can get the maximum quality at the full playback. Now, let me disable proxy. Again, the profile that 5 minutes of just me recording 422 10-bit externally to the Ninja 5. It wasn't a HQ, it was the middle quality one, normal 422, not the LT or the proxy, but the normal 422. And it's about a 5-minute recording, right? And this is where ProRes shines. And the great thing about it is the convenience of recording to ProRes. The quality is less taxing on the system, straight to SSD. You've got an SSD, a USB to SSD SATA cable that you can plug the SSD in, rename all your files, edit straight off the SSD, not have to worry about transferring files, as well as no proxy workflow. So this is at full resolution quality, and you can see it here, right? Scrubs beautifully. This is the ProRes file. Scrubs beautifully. It's in an MOV container. It's based on an all-intra codec, but like, yo, all-intra compression technique, look, scrubs. One drop frame. No drop frames. So we're gonna do it. Cut. Scrub forward. Cut. No delay. Scrub forward. Cut. Scrub back. No delay. Look at that. And that's all. That's what I wanted to kind of see. Like for me, for my video content creators out there, this is the stuff that I try and look for. Most of the time, it is safer with these heavily compressed internal codecs that you get from these mirrorless cameras. You know, it's really depending on your NLE, it's really best to work in a proxy workflow, unless you have cameras like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, 6K, some of the Red cameras, some of the Arri cameras, and obviously some of the cinema cameras like the Z cameras. They have internal ProRes recording, which, man, if you can, do it. It's going to save you a lot more time. You don't have to work in proxies. You can play back your files at full quality versus these compressed files, which yeah, they are very, very taxing. Even in the all-intra codec compression, they're very, very taxing. So I kind of wanted to share that with you guys, man. Let me know what you guys think, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
So yeah, man, I hope this was helpful to you guys, especially for my video content creators that are going through this process. And again, I've not been sponsored or paid by Atomos or Apple to promote, you know, the Ninja V and the ProRes, Apple ProRes codec, or, you know, I've not been sponsored by Premiere to showcase Premiere Pro, because I'm still looking to switch from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve. I'm just more showing something that interests me, and it's something that I like to know, like, you know, what's the difference between the internal codecs and how they behave, and what codecs behave, and the workflow that you could probably do to actually cut a lot of your frustration, depending on what software that you're using, what camera that you're using, what codec that you're working with. And also, if you're debating, you know, spending money on the Ninja V, look, I've spent my hard-earned cash on this twice. I mean, day one when it came out, I got it. I sold it for my own personal reasons this year. As I got my stuff back, that was my first priority, because I realized the workflow with ProRes and not having to transfer files, not having to work in proxies, and being able to play back your files at full resolution, full quality, cut, scrub, play back with no issues at all. I have had less spec'd out systems than this, and I was working on my laptop and I would be able to work smoothly in ProRes. So a ProRes workflow, a proxy workflow could really cut out a lot of frustration when you're editing on the timeline. And I hope this has been able to demonstrate it. And also to camera manufacturers, man, as many of you camera manufacturers that can get internal ProRes recording on cameras, like, please, like, make it happen, or work on your all-I codecs to make sure that they actually are meant to be friendly on the timeline, because the all-I codecs still seem to be as taxing as the normal long GOP IPB codecs. So yeah, if it looks in terms of quality, that's one thing, but in terms of timeline performance, man, it's still going to be taxing, where you're gonna need to be working in proxy workflows depending on what your NLE is. So that's about it for me, man. If this was informative and you like content like this, you know exactly what to do. Ben from Lover of Tech, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell so you're part of Team TLS, the Tech Lover Squad, so you don't miss any future content that is posted on the Lover of Tech channel. I hope you guys are safe during this time. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.